Welcome to a podcast about the organizations, businesses, and individuals that make the greater Houston area great. This is Cruise Through HTX. One such individual is Ziggy Gruber. Ziggy doesn't just run one of the nation's best delicatessens. He's preserving Jewish history one meal at a time. Native Houstonians know Kenny and Ziggy's as a hot spot for gathering with family and friends over a sandwich and/or a piece of one of their legendary cheesecakes. But did you know that delicatessens are nearly extinct? During this episode, Ziggy and I dive into all things delis. We talk about his journey through the food business, the challenges of running a deli, the decision to open in Houston, and his passion for preserving traditional Jewish dishes with people from all walks of life. This conversation takes so many twists and turns, and the end result is a podcast episode that'll have you ready for a trip to Kenny and Ziggy's on Post Oak. Check them out at kennyandziggy's.com, as well as Facebook and Instagram. And if you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed putting it together for you, please consider subscribing to the show on your favorite podcast platform and sharing with your family and friends at cruisethroughhtx.com.
Hi, I'm Ed Sheeran. This is Bruno Mars.
Hey, it's Katy Perry.
This is your man Flo Rida with Freddie Cruz.
This is AJ Mitchell with Freddie Cruz.
Freddie Cruz.
Freddie Cruz.
Your little Chico pick Mr. 305 and you already know what it is.
My name is Freddie, and it's time to cruise through HTX. The two of us met at a Girl Scout event. I got to see your daughter in action, you obviously in action making the legendary cheesecake. Let's tell everybody about that.
Well, Freddie, you went to what's the name of the place?
Just Desserts at the Junior League.
No, at the Junior League.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to the Junior League there, and what I did is I worked with my daughter's troupe, and we came up with a cheesecake. We took the Caramel Delights, or AKA Samoas. You know, it depends how old you are and how politically correct.
We're in our 20s.
Yes. So the Caramel Delights, we took those and we converted into a cheesecake, which people flipped out for.
Oh, yeah.
And loved it. And they called it the Crazy Caramel Delight Cheesecake. And we have been actually selling that cheesecake here at the deli now, and 100% of the proceeds go to their specific troop. So the Girl Scouts kind of got a twofold thing. They got, first of all, we bought all the Caramel Delights to make the cheesecake, which is great for them, and then now they'll be getting the proceeds. So it goes to a good cause, and the girls should basically raise from the sales that we're doing maybe $2,000 or $3,000 they're gonna get. So we're selling a lot of these cheesecakes.
That is a lot of cookies. So how many boxes? You say you bought all the Caramel Delights. Did you literally buy all of them, or you bought a whole bunch?
I bought a bunch. I bought over 100 boxes.
Wow.
To be honest with you, I don't know if the time limit's over. I have to talk to the troop leader, but we probably could go with another 100 boxes, actually.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who doesn't love Caramel Delights? So let's go back to your journey to becoming the deli man. And what do you remember the first meal you ever made that really sort of gave you the idea that, you know what, I'm going to do this forever?
Well, it wasn't so much that I made a meal. You have to remember, I'm third generation in the delicatessen restaurant business. Yeah. My grandfather had the first delicatessen on Broadway called the Rialto. And from there, they had burgers on 47th Street. They had Getlett's uptown, Wally's downtown. They had the Griddle in 14th Street and Union Square. They had a lot of restaurants. In fact, they even were out in the suburbs at the Woodrow Kosher Delicatessen Restaurant. They had that store for 50 years. And in Spring Valley, New York, for 50 years, they had Crest Hill Kosher Deli. So delicatessen is in my blood. So at a very early age, I saw, and I love my grandparents and adore them, I saw my grandparents every single day. My mom, from a toddler, would push me in a in a pram into the deli on Madison Avenue, which was called Gennard's, and I used to see my dad and my uncles and my grandparents, and it was always a warm feeling. And when I was old enough, and they had Crest Hill Kosher Deli in Spring Valley, New York, and I was about 8, my grandfather threw an apron at me. He says, "You know, you're old enough, it's time to make a living." And he took me into the kitchen and we started to cook. And he would teach me how to bake and pickle and make all kinds of traditional dishes. And the one thing back then, we would never argue with our elders or our grandparents. Whatever they told you to do, we did it. And I did it and I enjoyed it.
What was your favorite thing to make?
Oh, everything. I'm not a lightweight, so I like to partake in a few bites here and there. But making like the goulash or making like chopped liver or learning how to make the corned beef and the pastrami, and of course matzo ball soup and kreplach and all kinds of things like that. It was always so warm and inviting, and to see how people would react to the food, like if they tasted our stuffed cabbage and it reminded them of their mother or their grandmother. Mm-hmm. What better thing you could do for somebody? I've had over my lifetime, I've had a few people come. I'll never forget when I first came here to Houston. There was a guy, he must have been in his mid to late 90s, and he orders the stuffed cabbage, and he starts eating the stuffed cabbage, and the guy starts crying and bawling, and I run to the table, and I said, "Sir, I'm so sorry, what's going on? Is there something wrong? Did we do something wrong?" He said, "No." He says, "You just don't understand. I haven't tasted stuffed cabbage like this since my mom cooked it for me. And she and I survived, but my mom died in the crematorium in Auschwitz."
Oh, no.
When you hear something like that, it stuns you.
Yeah.
And it's been my calling to perpetuate this type of food, because unfortunately, there's not too many places like mine still around. There used to be in the tri-state area about 2,000 to 3,000 delicatessen stores. Now, if we got 5 to 10 in the whole, like boroughs and Manhattan and everything else, that would be a lot. We probably don't even have that.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, there's a bunch of factors. One is financially, it's very hard with the rents today and the overheads, such as food cost and labor cost. The margins are very narrow. And so narrow to the point that if you do not run it right or you make the wrong moves, you can be out of business very quickly.
Yeah, profit margins for restaurateurs is what, less than 5%, probably 1%?
It is now. It never used to be that way. Ooh. But even a deli, it's less.
No way.
Because our labor is a lot more. Think about it. We have people behind the counter, which is like having one kitchen.
Sure.
Then you have the regular kitchen and the prep kitchen. And all the other, wait staff, bussers, all hosts, everything. If you add it all up, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And if you are not a sharp person and you don't know how to handle it, you can go out. I've seen a lot of restaurateurs try to open up delis, and every single one of them did not make it. Mm. But it's just a very, very hard business.
This episode of Cruise Through HTX is brought to you by my media company, Speak Podcasting, on the web at spekepodcasting.com in our first online course of 2024. I'm excited. It's called PodQuest, Cracking the Code to Creating a Binge-Worthy Show. This is for 2 types of people, all right? 1, aspiring podcasters who want to launch their show on the right foot. And 2, unfocused podcasters who know they're unfocused and they want to relaunch with a clearer and more concise vision for who their ideal listener is. It's futuristic, it's interactive. We got some really cool video content for you, and it's using storytelling techniques. As you know, I've written 3 novels over the past 5 years, and so this right here was super fun for the team and I to create, and we can't wait for you, the future podcaster or current unfocused podcaster, to enroll and take the course. Check it out at speakpodcasting.com/podquest. So you grew up in New York,
Right.
and then you chose Houston
Right.
to open up Kenny and Ziggy's. What made you choose Houston over Dallas, over San Antonio, over,
Well, if you would have said I would have been here in Houston, I would have said you're crazy, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm originally from the Lower East Side. And like I said, we operated in New York. And when I was 15 years old, I was going to not go to school anymore. And I decided to wanting with a cousin of mine to open up a deli. My mother, God bless her, she said, no, I know you lost your grandfather and you were very close. Let me take you over to England. My mother's from England. And I'll introduce you to some cousins, and let's have a nice summer, and then we'll figure it all out when you come back. So I went there, and I met a cousin, and he informed me he was going to the Cordon Bleu at 15. I said, well, if you're going, I'm going too. So I decided to stay there, and I talked my way into the school, because at that point I didn't have a high school diploma. And I didn't have A-levels or O-levels, which is the English equivalent. So I talked my way, and I made a donation to the discretionary fund of the dean over there, and he got me in.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How much was the donation?
It was an undisclosed amount. So we got in to the school, and I excelled and did very well. And my dad didn't really want me in the delicatessen business, but he said, if you want to be in the restaurant business, I should be in the fancier, high-end business. He thought that was more of a gentleman's business. But the reality is it doesn't matter if you're working in a fancy restaurant or you're working in this restaurant or any other restaurant. It's hard work, and it's not glamorous.
It's a restaurant.
It's a restaurant. It's not glamorous. So I worked in a 3-star Michelin restaurant when I graduated. They asked me to work for them, which was an honor, because it was the only one at the time in England, owned by the Roux brothers. And in the kitchen there were some very famous people that came out of that kitchen, such as Gordon Ramsay came out of that kitchen. Mario Batali did a stint there. Marco Pierre White, also Pierre Kaufman. A lot of people did that, and the Queen used to eat. That was the only restaurant she liked to eat in. So the royal family would come in periodically. So I was doing all of that, but something was gnawing at me. I missed the home style and the ethnicity of being in the deli. I like dealing with regular people and being part of a community, a family, because delis happen to do that. Delis have to be the center of a community. So when I went on a vacation to New York, my uncle and my dad said, the Deli Man's Association is having their annual dinner. We're all going to go. I went. And when I looked around the room, I saw everybody there that was there. They were like, 80, 90-year-old people. I said, who's going to perpetuate this food? So I decided then and there that I was going to take this to another level and do that. So I decided to stay. And my dad gave me one store to see what I could do with it. And I ended up turning that one store to being one of the 3rd highest grossing delis in the tri-state area. And I ended up being like the official kosher caterer of West Point, and we were sending food up to Mario Cuomo, who was the governor at the time, and Ed Koch. We were sending you that. And I was in the suburbs. I wasn't even in Manhattan.
Wow.
But everybody knew the food and they loved it. So we built that up, doing a very, very good thing. From there, the neighborhood that I was in started to change. It started to get a little rougher. And I decided it would be smart because someone kept on pestering me. They'd like to buy the restaurant. So I sold the restaurant, and me and my dad, we decided to keep an eye on my brother. My brother at the time just got accepted to USC Film School in Los Angeles. So because he got, accepted, I wanted to keep an eye on him. He's wild, my brother. He wasn't like me. So we went there, and we decided to buy this place called Nicky Blair's on Sunset Boulevard, and I opened up Ziggy G's Delicatessen restaurant. The landlord at the time was Kenny Rogers, the country western singer.
Get out.
No, he was the owner of that building. When we did the whole thing, eventually the building was bought by another gentleman, and he didn't want a delicatessen in his building. And he did everything in his power to try to cut out our parking and this and that.
Why do you think that was?
There are lots of things. He just didn't want us. He didn't think we were classy enough for his building, whatever. And he decided to keep on going back and forth to court. So, and we would win, and he would win, and we would win. And he says, what's it going to do to take? Because we can continue doing this all day long. So I wrote a crazy number on a napkin, and he decided to meet the price, and we left. And we left just after the Jewish holidays. And in fact, the last meal that I gave was I delivered it myself up in the Hollywood Hills to Bob Shapiro. He was right in the middle of the O.J. trial at the time, and he wanted a Rosh Hashanah meal, and that's what we did. So we delivered it, and I sat with him for a little bit, and then I continued to look for some other locations, but they didn't pan out properly. So I said, you know what? Somebody up there is telling me I'm not supposed to be here. So I went back to New York, and I hooked up with the old owner of the Carnegie, and we were going to open up something in Times Square. At that time, Rudy Giuliani redid the whole of Times Square. And we looked, and we saw this lease. And this lease was like you thought communism was still alive. And, there was no way we could make a living from it. At that point, being in the business for over 20 years at that point, and I was only about 29 at the time, I said, I don't need everyone to pat me on the back and tell me how great my food is. I need to make a living because eventually I'd like to get married. I'd like to have kids. That doesn't help you if you're not making a decent living. So I said, okay, let's go out for dinner. My treat. Where do you want to go? So we went to Spark Steakhouse. And we went to Spark Steakhouse, and a gentleman named Lenny Friedman, who was a big real estate developer, who had a son named Kenny from Houston, was very good friends with Freddie Klein, the old owner of the Carnegie. And they were talking to him, and then Freddie handed me the phone. And Lenny could sell ice to Eskimos. He talked me into coming down here. And I came down here, I'll never forget this, in the beginning of June.
Oh, no.
And when I got out off the plane, it's like if you ever put wet rags in a tumble dryer and you get that humidity and heat, it was like that. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can make it over here. This is too rough. So Kenny says to me, he goes, and he was BSing me now that I know. He goes, oh, no, this is just a heat spell. This is unusually hot. We don't usually get heat like this.
Oh, man.
So we went and we took a look on Post Oak at the original location, which was on Westheimer and Post Oak. And I said, is this a good location? They said, yeah. We made a deal, we shook hands, and the rest is history. I've been here now 25 years. But I've operated myself personally. I've operated in Los Angeles, I've operated in New York, and I've operated here. And for here, I've been here now 25 years.
How long did it take for you to get used to the heat?
You know, it's funny. For people have to understand something. New York can get hot and humid.
Yeah.
But when you first come down here, it's a different type of heat. I remember the first 2 seasons, it takes 2 seasons to acclimate yourself here. So if you're coming here from somewhere else and you decide you're going to stay in Houston, it's going to take you 2 summers. So the first summer, it felt like almost like a drum beating, like you could feel it like throbbing on you.
Like you're wearing it.
Yes. And that was brutal the first year. And I'll never forget, I used to get up very early. I used to get up like 5 in the morning, and I would come in the store, and I wouldn't leave till about 9 o'clock at night. One time I walked out, I think it was around 12 or 1 o'clock. And when I went in, I looked at Kenny, I said, if you want me to stay here, you will never let me leave this store in the summertime at around 1 o'clock, because this is like, you know that movie, The Chronicles of Riddick, and you know when the sun comes out, and all of a sudden, if you don't get to the other side, forget about it. You're going to be vaporized.
Yeah,
it was like that to me over here. But
it still feels like that.
It does, but you know, now for 2 years you get used to it. And I would say I'm pretty much used to it now. But last summer, as we all know, definitely was brutal.
It's a different beast.
Oh, no. And what I did with my kids, I felt so bad for my kids because, you know, in New York, they send all the kids up to the Catskill Mountains where it's cooler and it's nice and there's wind and it's blowing you out of the city. So there's never an issue. Even if it's warm, it's not that warm.
It's a pleasant summer.
It's a pleasant summer. Last summer, I had my kids at the local day camp here at the Jewish Community Center. It was so hot, and they don't even have great air conditioning at that Murphy Center. I felt so guilty. I scooped up my kids. Now, my brother used to live in Los Angeles, and he moved to Anglesey, Wales, because he does his productions and movies and stuff all over the world. So he does whatever he's got to do. So I went there. It was 65, 70 degrees with no humidity. My mother is there. She's there 6 months there and 6 months here in Houston. And naturally, not the 6 months in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I am leaving these kids over there where it's civilized. So I left them there, and it's all nice there. And we're doing that again this year, too, because I'm not going to do that to these. I think it's going to be even hotter again.
Yeah, you know, we're taping this interview in late March. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was out on a run, and it was like, wait a minute, why is it early March and I'm sweating as if it's 100 degrees out?
Oh no, but it's been weird. Have you noticed, like, the last couple of months? It's been weird. We'll have one day, it's like 40 degrees, 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And chilly. The next day, it'll be 75, 80. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, it's like up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's like somebody is got the thermostat, they got their egg or whatever it is, and they're going back and forth.
Yeah. It's just like, I just, can we just get one or the other so we can just deal and acclimate?
See, you would think, okay, you know, we have all this technology. who knows if it's made us better. That's another topic of conversation, if it's made us better human beings. But with all this different technology that we have, somebody needs, and NASA or whatever it is, has to figure out how to put some sort of invisible dome over Houston and have it like air conditioned where the skies, it's like nice 65, 70 degrees.
Yes.
Now, if somebody can do that, that person is beyond the Nobel Peace Prize.
Tell me about it.
Let me tell you something. It would, that person, I don't know what to do. You couldn't give that guy enough.
Hey, you know, Reagan won the Cold War with not an iPhone.
Yes.
So it's possible.
Yes.
I'd say it's possible. Maybe not in our lifetimes.
No, I would believe me. You would think some scientists, listen, if they can figure out a way, you know, that Oppenheimer was so big, if they can find a way to annihilate us, can't they find us a way to make us a little more comfortable?
You know, exactly. Exactly.
There's got to be some equation or molecules that you can make, you know, to moving around, making you a little colder.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to something you said about technology. Has it made us, in your eyes, has it made us better? You've been in the restaurant game for a long time, pretty much all your life.
Technology in the restaurant business, there is some. It's how can I put it? There's love and hate. For these POS systems to take somebody's order or to do it at the table.
Point of service?
The point of service,
okay.
Yes. To do it at the table, I think it has streamlined things and it's made things easier. With not handwriting everything for people that are actually preparing your food, they don't need to pull out Rosetta Stone and figure out what ancient Sanskrit that the server wrote on this guest check. It comes out in a printed form.
Yeah.
So they don't have to figure it out. That, I would say, is positive. The problem is with the cell phones and the texting and this, the staff, and not just every single restaurant, and I think every single business, everybody is on these damn phones. If I tell you I'm going around and yelling at, hey, you're serving, don't be on your cell phone, don't do this. But people are so tethered and addicted to the technology, they have no choice. I mean, forget this has nothing to do with the restaurant. I even look at my kids. You know, I have to really limit because these kids get sucked into it. I mean, I only allow 1 hour of iPad time Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Monday through Friday, there is no iPad at all. And I can't tell you, I'm the worst parent in the world, according to them, because I'm the only one that does that. Everyone else's parents, I don't care what everyone else's parents do. I see what it does to these kids' brains on some of these.
Developing brains.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to pay for it in 20 years from now. We're going to see what when everyone's brain is scrambled, what we're going to be dealing with. Thank God I'll be 2 sheets to the wind and,
2 sheets to the wind.
Let me tell you, what can I tell you?
On this one podcast, it was by Mark Manson. He and his co-host posited the thought that in 20 or 30 years, people are going to wonder about us, like you and me, like people our age, right? The way we look at our elders when they were in the cars with us, windows up, smoking cigarettes.
Look, who knows the way they're going to look? I hope, there's a great book called The Tipping Point.
Gladwell.
I hope there is a tipping point where people get tired of technology. Mm-hmm. And I think you're starting to see that, believe it or not, with some of the social media. I know when the pandemic was happened, it didn't matter if you were a 90-year-old grandmother or if you were a 10-year-old. Everyone was on Facebook, Instagram, this and that. Now, it's still a huge medium. Let's be honest. It's still a huge medium. But I think it's getting a little bit less. Maybe people that weren't going on every day, making a post every day, maybe they're making once a week or every couple of days. So hopefully that will become more, not so in your face like that.
And it's interesting because as business owners, it's like, well, what's the best way to get the free advertising is by posting on social media.
To be honest with you, I don't do anything in print anymore. I don't think anybody does. It's all social media. And you know what I had to do? I got farmed out of the system. I used to go in, and I'm a pretty creative person, and I would come up with these nice, like little movies or snapshots or something clever. And I noticed that the technology with these reels are like going from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
And look, I have to deal with here and I have to deal with my stuff at home. And I can't spend 2 or 2.5 hours to start, when I worked a long day, to start editing these things and figuring it all out. So I threw my hands up and I said, listen, I got to hire someone. We hired a great person to start doing that. And they're doing a much better job than I do. And for somehow, as opposed to where I would get anywhere from 30 to maybe 100 likes or whatever it is, they're getting 250,000 people hitting this up. So, obviously they know what they're doing, and let them do it. And to be honest with you, I spend more time than with my kids, so it's better than that.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to something else you talked about. It's one of the things, one of the traditional foods that you're preserving
Sure.
Within your culture, and that's liver. And someone like me who doesn't do liver.
Okay.
What is it about your liver that makes it special and for people like me?
There is a big difference between eating maybe a liver steak, which I use veal liver here, which is nice, soft, delicious, but it's definitely, it's definitely, you gotta like liver. When you're eating chopped liver or a pâté de foie gras, it's different. There's other stuff in it, and it's creamy, and it's got more levels of flavor. Mm-hmm. You're putting caramelized onions, so there's a sweetness, and it's not this bittery, almost metallic-y kind of flavor like liver can do that because of the hemoglobin. You can taste that. It's not like that. So our chopped liver, even people that don't like liver love our chopped liver because it has got so many caramelized onions in it. It's very sweet, and there's eggs in there, and it's a different experience. Getting with the other traditional dishes. A lot of people in the Jewish community have kind of gotten away from some of the old time dishes, but stuffed cabbage is fantastic. And it's sweet and sour sauce, and who doesn't like that? So, some of the young people that are not eating that these days, they're missing out on stuff like that. But the funny part is we sell a ton of stuffed cabbage and goulash, but they might not necessarily be to Jewish clientele. A lot of non-Jewish people are coming in here and they're eating this stuff, and they never had this, and they think it's the best esoteric, like it's been just invented. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, these are hundreds and hundreds of years old recipes, but they love it, and they think it's totally new. So they're eating kishka, and they're eating kasha vanishkis and a noodle kugel and all these other stuff that probably they wouldn't have eaten before. But the reality, when it comes down to it, all cultures on the face of the earth have good food. And food is either good, if it's prepared right, or it's not good. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, and it doesn't matter if it's Listen, there is great Jewish food, and there is bad Jewish food. There's great Indian food, bad Indian, same with Chinese. You name it. Listen, there are some great Mexican restaurants, And there are not so great Mexican pizzas.
That is a fact.
That's a fact. So it doesn't matter if they're simple ingredients or anything. It's how it's prepared. It's the nuances. So the one thing we try to give the best of breed when you come to Kenny and Ziggy's, if you want to really truly try this type of, and when I say the food that I do, you know, it's Jewish, but there are different types of Jewish foods. People don't realize that. They think, you know, corned beef, pastrami, lox and bagel, that's all Jewish. No, this is Ashkenazic Jewish food. Just like there are many different types of Christians in the world. There are Christians in South America. There are Christians in Europe. They're all Christian. There are lots of type of Jews. The majority of Jews that came into this country in the early 1900s were from Eastern Europe.
And that's, I'm sorry,
Ashkenazic.
Ashkenazic.
Right. Those Jews that came over here in the early 1900s, they were from, you know, Hungary, Poland, Russia, you know, all Eastern European countries. And they brought a lot of their dishes, such as the stuffed cabbage, the bagels and lox, the pastrami, the other stuff that they brought, matzo ball soup, things like that. If you go and talk to other Jewish people, say, for example, a lot of people might not know this, there was a very large Jewish population in Ethiopia.
I had no idea.
No, there were. And
wow.
There was huge, but they're all in Israel, majority of them now, because when there was the famine, or whatever in the 80s, they had this thing, Operation Moses, where El Al came in with all of these planes, and they took everybody and they took them to Israel, and they educated them and everything else. See, people don't realize if you go to Israel and if you go there, it's not just white people. It's like the United Colors of Benetton over there. You know, the Ethiopia naturally look like are black because, remember, David and Bathsheba, they got together, and that's how these people started over there. Then you have Jews from Morocco and Spain that they are different type of Jews. They are Sephardic Jews. And then you have Jews that were all thrown out of the Arab countries and Persian countries. You had from Iran to Iraq to all people, and they brought their foods. But the majority of food that I do here at Kenny and Ziggy's, this is what we do here is Ashkenazic food. And that's kind of dying. More people, I think, are eating more of the Mediterranean, Middle Eastern stuff, even some of the Ethiopian stuff today. If you go to Israel and other parts of the world where there are Jewish people.
Kenny and Ziggy's is the legendary restaurant. Y'all check them out on Post Oak. It's over here in this big, beautiful space, seats 300 people. The website is kennyandziggies.com. Ziggy, this is equal parts places and travel, equal parts personal development and business. And so I got to ask you as a fellow business owner, what is your advice for anyone looking to get into any kind of business?
I think anyone that goes into any business today, the most valuable asset that you can develop and have is your people. And in order to cultivate your people, you have to be respectful of them. You have to treat them with dignity and make them feel that they're part of something big. 90% of my people have been with me for 20 to 25 years. Not too many people can say that. So they have basically have invested a big chunk of their life here. Now they stay because we work together. Nobody is better than the other. We all, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a dishwasher. It doesn't matter if you work in the deli. It doesn't matter if you're a server. It doesn't even matter if you're me. We all talk to each other in a very, very respectful way. And that's why people like to work there. Sometimes it's not about how much people get paid more. I mean, I pay a good wage, don't get me wrong. But there are probably people that pay better than I do. But the people like the environment. They like to work here. They like to come to work. And it's important to empower your employees and to make them feel that they are invested in your company. So they're not an employee in their mind. They feel that they are a partner. And then they will watch your business just like you watch your business. And that's the best advice I can give, because if you have that, they're going to take care of your customers. Customers are going to be happy. They're going to make sure whatever you're producing is going to be good. And they're going to make sure that the end product and the end results are going to be as profitable as can be.
Ziggy, my man, love everything about that. Thank you so much for inviting me into your beautiful restaurant for this conversation and taking the time to talk to me on my podcast.
You're welcome, Freddie. I enjoyed it very much.